Yo, my name's Ian. I like making cards, and today I wanted to do one of my favorite games, Hollow Knight. So enjoy my card making process while I take you back to the tragic events of Hollow Nest. Long before Hollow Nest was created, there was a god amongst the creatures of the land. She would fill the creatures' dreams with her brilliant light each night, and guide their way through sleep. And it was said that she was the creator of an entire species, the Moth tribe. But this tribe was unlike the others. All the moths worked as one and shared only the desires of their queen, until they weren't the only ones. Soon after, every creature under the sun served the god and called her the Radiance. Centuries passed with each night beginning in worship for the god. Centuries passed with each night beginning in worship for the god to bless their dreams. But somewhere far deep down below, a cosmic being called the Worm had died and was reborn as the Pale King. The Pale King possessed an offering to the creatures of the land, the gift of mind. In exchange for intelligence and free will, the bugs offered their loyalty to the king and took their rightful spot in his kingdom of Hollow Nest. Time passed as tribe after tribe devoted themselves to the king. Even the Moth tribe, the ones the Radiance had created herself, turned to the king and slowly forgot about her once inescapable light. The Radiance had nothing left. She was just an old forgotten god, and her loneliness and rage consumed her over time, till bugs began seeing her in their dreams again with her brilliant blinding light. Though these dreams were different than before, they had a way of tempting you to stay, feeding on individual desires to keep you dreaming. But outside, the body would undergo physical mutation, growing vibrant orange bubbles and turning the eyes burnt orange, their minds turning to mush as the infection took complete control of their body. The Radiance was stealing the gift from the king and taking back her once loyal puppets. Each tribe tried their best to slow the infection, but each failed. The Mantis tribe trained mental discipline. They believed if they purified their minds, the temptation from the Radiance would be ineffective against them. But this solution caused a division in the tribe. One of the Mantis lords argued for the infection, explaining how it would grant them immense strength and open their eyes to things unseen before. While some members followed, the other three lords defeated him and banished the group from their lands. But perhaps the most tragic example comes from the City of Tears. Their people believed that Soul was the solution powerful enough to save them from the infection. The idea stemming from a dream of a scientist. The researchers began killing thousands of people to collect Soul from each and every one of their decaying shells. But the infection took them regardless, and mixed with the immense amount of Soul they harvested, they transformed into bloated floating husks, with only the thought of finding more. Not even their dead were laid to rest, as the infection brought them back. But not in the forms they once had, only a sludge of decaying matter on the floor. The Pale King was forced to watch his kingdom slowly fall apart, and without being any closer to finding a cure, the king had to turn to desperate solutions. He and a creature called the White Lady created thousands of children, but they were merely vessels, sacrifices to save themselves. Child after child were thrown into the deepest part of Hollow Nest, the Void. Once landed, the Void would carve away all their thoughts and emotions that once defined them, leaving only a hollow vessel behind, fit to be a king's pond. All he had to do was wait for the perfect vessel to climb out of that cold cavern, and it wasn't long before one did. Though unrighteously cruel, for the plan to work, the pure vessel had to have a completely hollow mind. Once the Radiance would invade its dreams, it would be trapped there forever, without any desires to tempt with. So the pure vessel was named the Hollow Knight and locked away in the Black Egg Temple. Once there, the king pulled together the finest bugs from each tribe of its kingdom, Lurin the Watcher, Manomon the Teacher, and Hera the Beast. These three were meant to fall into eternal slumber and together cast a powerful protection spell over the temple, permanently sealing the Hollow Knight inside. But when the perfect vessel climbed out of the void and the king took him in, there was another. Right behind the Hollow Knight was another child of the void, so close to the surface, but left to fall after the king closed his doors. That same child was left to wander the wastelands outside of Hollow Nest for years, but after all that time he slowly drifted back to Hollow Nest, without even knowing it, as if connected through an invisible thread. When he finally did return, he knew nothing of the place he was born. His memories had been seemingly washed away. Discovering the kingdom for the first time, the knight was faced with few faces that remained in the ruined kingdom, and surrounded by the mindless husks of infection around every corner. But before being able to explore the Forgotten Kingdom, the dreamers encountered the knight and sensed the damage he was capable of. They ensnared the knight and trapped him in an endless dark dream, but there, he met the seer. She came from the Moth tribe to pull the knight out of his dream in hopes that he is the hero that will finally let the city rest. She explains how she is the last of her kind and tells the knight that the Pale King had failed Hallownest. The perfect vessel was shown love by the king in his upbringing, making his emotionless mind crack and a place for the radiance to seep through. She tells the knight that the infection is still spreading and how it's not slowing down, giving him the dream nail and telling him that with the king gone, he needs to be the one to hunt down the dreamers and release the Hollow Knight from their duty of false hope. The knight accepted and ventured deep into Hallownest to find the dreamers. As he descended deeper and deeper into the kingdom, his true abilities began awakening. He could feel the void and the powers it offered, now being so close. Harnessing its energy, the knight used the powers of the void to take down the dreamers, one by one, until the temple was left unguarded. Along his path, the knight met few faces, but none was as intriguing as Hornet. She was a child of the Pale King like him, though she didn't look corrupted by the void at all, but entangled in silk. The knight's encounters with his half-sister almost always resulted in a sparring match, testing each other's abilities, except for the last time they met, outside the Black Egg Temple, after the dreamers were gone. She stood with the knight to help defeat the Hollow Knight. Entering the chamber, the Hollow Knight was resting, suspended in the air with chains. His orange eyes followed the pair, and through the misty air, a tiny crack on his mask shimmered in the light. Cutting down the chains and releasing him from his corrupted slumber was followed with a piercing scream and a swift-bladed dash towards the knight. Their nails clashed, and the once dormant pure vessel was now as quick as lightning. Exchanging blows, every slash upon the Hollow Knight leaked orange blood that filled the air, tinting the surrounding mist. Using the void's power, the pure vessel began to slow down, providing an opportunity for Hornet to drive her needle into the fractured mask, letting the knight use the dream nail to venture into his mind. His subconscious was filled with the brilliance of a never-setting sun. The radiance was here, still imprisoned, searching the horizons for any sign of her, and for a moment, the knight could have sworn he had seen the sun flinch. Moving closer, he was sure of it now, that was the Moth Queen, hiding in her overwhelming light. Drawing his nail, the sun had grown wings and swiftly became more defined. Light began firing in concentrated blasts, targeting the knight. With precise movements, he evaded the attacks and summoned the void from deep below. The lightless tar began seeping above the ground and crawling towards the sky. Void-ridden brothers and sisters rised and climbed with him in their relentless pursuit for nightfall. Face to face now, the void form of the pure vessel had grappled the radiance and held her down. The knight broke from his shell and inherited his royalty as the king of the void, and his bleak darkness scattered the once everlasting brilliance of the god. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the story and my art. I'm pretty happy with how the card came out. Let me know if you want to see a card for Silksong, and I'll see you guys later.